All right, this is our Daily Bread devotional for today, Thursday, January 16th, 2020. The verse comes from John 6:4 through 14, New King James. Now the Passover, a feast of the Jews, was near. Jesus lifted up his eyes, and seeing a great multitude coming toward him, he said to Philip, "Where shall we buy bread that they may eat?" But this he said to test him, for he himself knew what he would do. Philip answered him, 200 denarii worth of bread is not sufficient for them, that every one of them may have a little. One of his disciples, Andrew, Simon Peter's brother, said to him, "There is a lad here who has 5 barley loaves and 2 small fish, but what are they among so many?" And Jesus said, "Make the people sit down." Now there was much grass in that place, so the men sat down, in number about 5,000. And Jesus took the loaves, and when he had given thanks, he distributed them to the disciples, and the disciples to those sitting down. Likewise of the fish as much as they wanted. So when they were filled, he said to his disciples, "Gather up the fragments that remain, so that nothing is lost." Therefore they gathered them up and filled 12 baskets with the fragments of the barley loaves, which were left over by those who had eaten. Then those men, when they had seen the sign that Jesus did, said, "This is truly the prophet who is to come into the world." And devotional commentary insight. The feeding of the 5,000 is the only miracle besides Jesus' resurrection that's reported in all 4 Gospels. Quantitatively, this is the biggest miracle Jesus performed, with potentially more than 20,000 beneficiaries. The number of those who ate was about 5,000 men, besides women and children. And Mark 6 tells us that this was a remote place, and the disciples wanted to send the people away so they could get food for themselves. But Jesus ordered his disciples to feed them. He challenged both their faith, they didn't have the means or resources, and their compassion. Seeing the needs of others, Jesus wanted them to make these needs their responsibility as well. Bring what you have is the title of today's devotional. Bring them here to me, Jesus said. Matthew 14:18 from Matthew's Gospel telling of the feeding of the 5,000. This is by Cindy Hess Casper. Stone soup is an old tale with many versions. It tells of a starving man who comes to a village, but no one there can spare a crumb of food for him. He puts a stone and water into a pot over a fire. Intrigued, the villagers watch as he begins to stir his soup. Eventually, one brings a couple of potatoes to add to the mix. Another has a few carrots. One person adds an onion, another a handful of barley. A farmer donates some milk. Eventually, the stone soup becomes a tasty chowder. That tale illustrates the value of sharing, but it also reminds us to bring what we have, even when it seems to be insignificant. In John 6:1 through 14, we read of a boy who appears to be the only person in a huge crowd who thought about bringing some food. Christ's disciples had little use for the boy's spare lunch of 5 loaves and 2 fishes. But when it was surrendered, Jesus increased it and fed thousands of hungry people. I once heard someone say, you don't have to feed the 5,000. You just have to bring your loaves and fishes. Just as Jesus took one person's meal and multiplied it beyond everyone's expectation or imagination, he'll accept our surrendered efforts, talents, and service. He just wants us to be willing to bring what we have to him. What have you been holding back from God? And why is it difficult to bring that area of your life to him? Jesus, help me to surrender whatever I have to you, knowing you can multiply a little into a lot. All right, and there's the link there if you want to check it out. And there's also a link there for a really cool worship song by Casting Crowns, I Surrender All. Kind of an updated version of an old song. It's really good. All right, so if you'll click the like if you like, leave a comment, question, prayer request. Be happy to write a prayer for somebody. You guys have a great day. Take care. God bless.